Hi, guys, and welcome to this week's Punters podcast. We'll be reviewing the crazy last few days in the Premier League over the Christmas period, discussing January transfer window business, previewing this weekend's FA Cup games, best bets, and we'll also be having a little bit of a discussion about underdogs, as obviously it's the FA Cup, so we'll be looking at some underdogs and who we think are best value at higher prices. But first of all, we've got another new guest this week in Tom. First of all, Happy New Year to you and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to everyone else as well.
Yeah, and obviously I'm joined as per usual by Ben. Happy New Year, Ben.
Happy New Year, guys.
Right, okay, so as I said, it's been a crazy few days. I was saying to the boys beforehand, a little bit of a struggle really to remember which game was part of which game week. But first of all, I think we'll start with last night's game as it's fresh in the memory. Ben, were you surprised by the result at all, or did it kind of go the way you predicted it?
After the first half, I was surprised, yeah. Arsenal tend to turn up against Chelsea, and it was looking very tight to start with. I wasn't expecting as many goals as there was. But I've been impressed with Arsenal recently, and I thought they probably deserved to edge it in the end.
Chelsea, go on.
Chelsea are very strong on the counter-attack, and I think they were kind of quite relaxed and just to let Arsenal have the ball. But I think that suited Arsenal. I think they've definitely improved on the ball. I think Wilshere's definitely made an impact. And yeah, I thought on the balance of play, Arsenal probably should have nicked it.
Other than that, obviously a lot was made of Morata's performance. Tom, what did you make of his performance and the result in general?
Well, his performance was very disappointing in front of goal. He got played through a couple of times, a few really good through balls from the Chelsea midfield and defence, but he really seemed to be low on confidence when he went through. So, poor from him. But yeah, if he'd have taken them chances, then it could have been, swung Chelsea's way. So really, it was an end-to-end game. I think 2-2 probably was a fair result in the end. Arsenal showed, real width going forward with Maitland-Niles. He looked really good, I thought, that were mentioned in commentary. So good signs for both teams, but defensively, quite poor.
Yeah, well, definitely probably a decent point considering Arsenal scored in the last minute. As for City, a little tiny blip in what has been almost a pretty perfect season so far at Palace. Ben, obviously Palace could have won the game with their last kick, but what did you make of the game in general?
Definitely positive signs for Palace. City have been free scoring and Palace have kept them out. I've been impressed with Palace since Hodgson came in. I thought against Arsenal, I thought they struggled defensively, so they've obviously sorted that out. But I think on the ball, I think they've got the players to obviously not. I'm not getting carried away, not pushing to maybe probably the top six yet, but they've got decent players in that side, and they should definitely be looking away from the relegation zone, I think.
Yeah, well, it's definitely a case of Palace starting off at the bottom, but weren't a team that should have been down there given the amount of good players they've got. But Tom, in terms of Palace, what's going right that wasn't going right? And was City sort of off colour, or was it a case of Palace are just bang on form at the moment?
I think all the credit has to go to Palace, to be fair. Hodgson, he's come in and has seen an upturn in results, but when you look at the underlying performance data, Palace were, mid-table in the Premier League for that on expected goals, stats like that, even before Hodgson came in. So it's just about them being a lot more clinical in front of goals in other games and a lot more solid at the back, not conceding silly goals. So it was kind of forecast for Palace to, start coming to the fore a bit more. But yeah, it's got them more solid at the back. And the good thing about that, if they're solid at the back, then they've got the counter-attacking threat with, Wilfried Zaha. So yeah, really good for Palace. I'd expect them, to have a table finishing around 10th, 11th.
Yeah, definitely a positive sign to Palace. But City obviously did go on and win 3-1 against Watford in the week. As for other teams around in the top four, Liverpool clinched two pretty narrow victories, especially the one against Burnley. Last minute scrappy Ragnar Clement goal took 3 points away at Burnley. Ben, what did you make of the performance first, and how impressed were you with Liverpool in terms of comeback in both games?
Yeah, I won't go as far as say I was too impressed with Liverpool. I mean, these are teams I think they should be beating. I know Burnley have done well, but they're not known for scoring goals, and it is difficult to keep Liverpool out as much as you do rely on your defence. So I did expect Liverpool to win that one. Against Leicester, I think they have got gaps at the back. Time will tell if Liverpool can get something in January and do it against the top teams, against the quality forwards. But yeah, it's 6 points. You can't argue with that.
Yeah, well, I'll just mention it now. Ben's not a massive fan of Liverpool, so I don't know what it's going to take for him to ever suggest that Liverpool are going to get top four and a good team to watch.
It's going to take someone to come in that holding midfield role, and I've heard that Kate is not coming till the summer, so they're going to have to do something, I think, in January.
Yeah, well, obviously that remains to be seen, and obviously whether Emre Can stays or goes. But it's a January transfer window now, so we'll be expecting to see some things going on. As for you, Tom, Burnley have been very impressive at home, but I think the short day turnaround probably meant that this was always going to be quite a difficult one if they had to take any points away.
Yeah, indeed. When you look through their squad depth, there's not much there. So he's working with what he's got. Sean Dyche, obviously, a lot of injuries there as well. It's taken the toll, but it's so commendable what he's done there, and they did give it a really good go. As you said, it was a last-minute Clavan goal that took that. So no worries at all for Burnley there. They're having a great season.
Yeah, well, definitely Liverpool just about clinging on to that top four space at the moment, and Burnley still managing to impress. Well, that was just some of the games picked out from last weekend's action. Well, as we've already mentioned a little bit already, January transfer windows. I think first place to start is probably Coutinho, considering the links he's had with Barcelona last summer and already this summer, this January transfer, sorry. Ben, that's what a lot has been made of the fact that he's very conveniently become injured again right at the start of the transfer window.
Yeah, I mean, I would expect him to go. I'd be highly surprised if he was there come February, just after what happened last time. And if you say he has miraculously become injured again, then and all this news about him saying that he won't play for Liverpool ever again, then I can't see him staying. I think his head's gone, and when a player does that, I think Klopp will realise that there's no point keeping him. And once a player thinks, right, I want to play for them, then it's hard to turn his head.
But I think, interestingly, that kind of happened in the summer. He sort of made a stance. He said, I want to move. I don't want to play anymore. But then once he'd come back from his actual injury, he's been brilliant so far this season. So it's a little bit difficult to know whether if he stays, will he perform like he has so far this season, or will he actually, just refuse to play full stop?
Yeah, good point. Like he did come back. I was impressed with his attitude. I just think the second time round it could get a bit frustrating for him. And I think if you pick out that interview with Oxlade-Chamberlain, and a lot of was said about I'm enjoying at Liverpool at the moment, and I just think he already is in Barcelona, and I think it'd be kind of wrong from Klopp to keep him. I'm not sure we'd see the same Coutinho come February.
Yeah, Tom, do you agree with Ben? I mean, it's one of those where it would be very detrimental for Liverpool to lose him now. And is there much gain in Barcelona having him right now, considering he wouldn't be able to play in the Champions League?
That's a very good point that I was going to bring up, actually. Yeah, obviously he's not going to be involved in the Champions League, and La Liga looks, pretty sewn up for Barca at the minute. They're doing well there. So if I were them, it'd be more of a decent deal to do in the summer, and especially from Liverpool's point of view. But just as what Ben was alluding to earlier, his attitude, I think the main reason why he's carried on his excellent form is because he's in a team that are so good going forward, and you can tell he's enjoying his football. And when it's like that, and he's got players like Mane, Salah, Firmino, Lallana all around him, then it's hard to not enjoy what you're doing there. So, and I don't think Liverpool fans are going to begrudge him if he does go. Obviously, they'd want that to happen in the summer as well. So I'm not sure it will happen this January window, actually. I think it might be one to look out for in the summer.
Yeah, well, definitely from a Liverpool perspective, definitely don't want him to leave right now. But like I said, yeah, I think he is going to go at some point, and the summer would suit both parties. Another one to talk about, Conte midweek saying that Michy Batshuayi and David Luiz can leave this month if they wish to. Ben, what do you make of that comment first? It seems to be that Luiz has pretty much just fallen out of favour, and not really much has been said as to what happened there.
Yeah, it's a weird one. If he has come out and said that, obviously, the two players involved can't be too big in part of his plans. It's a weird one. I thought the manager, for me, has to have faith in his players. If the players are there, I mean, he could get a few injuries to that defence, and Luiz could be straight back in, have a few good performances, and he could be in the starting lineup. So I'm surprised that your own manager has said, we don't want you. Maybe tell him personally you're surplus to requirements, but don't come out in the press and kind of embarrass him like that.
Yeah, Tom, I think David Luiz was arguably one of the players of the season last season in that team that won the Premier League at Chelsea. Where do you see him potentially ending up?
Well, it really worked for him in that 3-5-2, so I think he'd be an ideal replacement for Bonucci at Juventus. So I could see that happening. They've been rumoured to be in for him. So because really Luiz is quite a maverick kind of central defender, so it's good to have two other centre halves beside him. He can come out with the ball, spray some passes about. So I can see him maybe making a move to Juventus, a big team like that.
Yeah, Ben, I think next one to talk about is probably Alexis Sanchez. Obviously, still playing very well for Arsenal this season, but it just seems to be that he doesn't see his future at Arsenal.
No, personally, I think he's the kind of player that probably sees himself as a bit bigger than the club. The whole farce really about the split in the dressing room, I think that was taken a bit out of context, taken a bit too far. But it's just the way he reacts to his fellow players and the way he kicks off all the time. I think he thinks he's probably the key man in that team, and he probably wants more than what Arsenal are giving him right now.
Tom, again, the potential destination. I know City are rumoured to be very interested, and that obviously would be a signing that would, if you can make that City side any stronger, that is making it stronger.
Yeah, it would do, but you look at City at the minute, he wouldn't get in that team for me. He wouldn't get near that front three when you got like De Bruyne and Sterling in this kind of form, David Silva. So I don't think he's really needed for Man City. It'd just be a case of, strength in depth for them. But it's this contract conundrum. It runs out of contract at the end of the season, of course. So should Arsenal cash in? Would their fans be happy with them cashing in? Would they be annoyed that it'd be cash going to coming in from teams like Man City, a direct rival? But are they even a direct rival anymore? Man City have pretty much won the league, so if Man City came in for them, if I were Wenger and the Arsenal board, I'd be seriously considering that.
Ben, I mean, do you agree that Sanchez wouldn't get into that Man City team?
I think he's a very quality player, and I think at the minute at City, you'd struggle to take. It'd be unfair to take any of them out. I think if Sanchez got into that team and he was motivated like he was when he joined Arsenal, I think he's a very strong player. But I think, right now, probably it'd be harsh on a few of the players to take him out. But saying that, City Champions League, they've got they're still in both cups. They're in all competitions they could be in, so they need that strength in depth. So I think he'd definitely get game time. But Mark, can I just mention, do we know if Wenger's come out and said anything about Sanchez going or staying in this window?
I think a few weeks back he came out and said that he wouldn't be leaving, that neither him or Mesut Ozil would be leaving in January. However, I remember at the start of the season that he said that there is obviously the risk that they would lose him.
But I wouldn't trust whatever he says, because I can remember the Van Persie saga. He was adamant Van Persie wasn't leaving, and Nasri as well. I remember he was adamant Nasri wasn't leaving, and look what happened to them too. So I wouldn't believe a word Wenger said.
Yeah, I know. It seems to be whenever managers come out and say that their players are certainly not leaving and they're not going anywhere, it tends to be the case that actually they do go on and actually move anyway. But yeah, definitely one to look out for. To even think that Sanchez would be a substitute for a side is quite mind blowing. But anyway, we'll have to see how that one develops. Okay, we'll move on to previewing this weekend's FA Cup action. We've picked out four of the TV games, starting with Liverpool against Everton, the Merseyside derby, at 8 o'clock on Friday. Fleetwood Leicester at lunchtime on Saturday, and then Forest against Arsenal Sunday. Finishing off Brighton against Palace, 7:45 on Monday evening. So we'll start with that Liverpool-Everton game. Liverpool was favourites beforehand at 4-9, draw at 19-5. Everton out at 7-1. Ben, I'll start with you. I think I was watching Klopp's press conference this morning, and he said no Coutinho, obviously, or Mo Salah, and you'd probably expect there to be a few changes in there. So how do you see this one going?
I see Liverpool winning this one for a change. I'm actually supporting Liverpool in this one. I just think whoever plays, obviously Mane could come in then, and I think Chamberlain will come in, because I think Liverpool the front four that they will play with will just possess too much balance for the Everton team. We all know about the strength on the counter with the pace, but I think Everton, will try and counter that and play deep. I just think Chamberlain will come into the side and they'll play quite narrow, and they've definitely got the quality to unlock Everton in this one.
Agreed.
I think for Everton, I think Rooney will probably be key if he plays. And a more direct route, because, like I say, the Liverpool midfield, all the players seem to want to get on the score sheet. It's a very attacking side, so I think if you skip that midfield and get a run at the defence, I think that could be key. So Rooney could probably play a part there in unlocking Liverpool's defence, but I do think Liverpool front four will be the stronger of the two.
Tom, obviously looking at it in terms of teams, it looks like Liverpool should be winning the game. However, we said that in the derby only a few weeks ago, and Everton did come out with a point. But obviously, had it not been for Dejan Lovren's slight moment of stupidity, they probably would have got 3 points. So, do you see Everton getting anything here, or are you agreeing with Ben?
I'm agreeing with Ben here. That Everton-Liverpool game early in the season, I mean, they got absolutely battered, did Everton. They were so lucky to end up with a point. I know most of their fans would say that as well, to be honest. But again, the big caveat here is team news. I mean, a big player for Everton, Idrissa Gueye for me, especially against these good teams like Liverpool. You know, in that them holes between midfield and defence, he feels that hole. So if he's not involved, then Everton don't really stand a chance away from it on here. The bet that I was looking at actually was the half-time, full-time market. A draw at half-time and Liverpool at full-time at 7-2 with Bet Victor. I can just see Allardyce setting up, defensively again. I can see them holding out Liverpool for a while, but ultimately, the clash should tell.
Yeah, Paul, I'll just run through a few stats for this game. Liverpool obviously undefeated in 16 games, and Everton are without a win in 4 and have lost their last 2 games. Everton have picked up 2 draws lately against Chelsea and Liverpool, however, since Allardyce has come in. So he's showing that he can defend against the bigger sides. But Liverpool have conceded just 4 times in 11 games. So it's difficult to see where Everton are going to score from. And 4 of the last 5 games against the top half, have had fewer than 3 goals and have all ended level. And that's for Liverpool. And obviously, this game has been there have been quite a few draws in recent years, and 1-1 as a score has also been something that has occurred quite frequently. Under 2.5 goals, 6-5. There have been that has landed in 5 of the last 7 derbies across all competitions, and the draw is at 19-5 with William Hill, which looks like quite good value, especially from my point of view. I do think a draw will be what happens, and that's at 19-5 with William Hill. Ben, did you have a bet that you liked for this one?
Yes, I do fancy Liverpool to win this. I think they'll be a stronger side, but I do expect both teams to score, and that's at 12-5.
Yeah, well, Liverpool and both teams to score is definitely a bet that is often very common and very popular. But just looking at the previous derbies, goals haven't always been scored. Quite a few 1-1, so under 2.5 goals, 6-5 Ball Sports could be a way to go. That is the derby on Friday night. We'll look at the lunchtime kickoff on Saturday. Fleetwood against Leicester. Obviously, not knowing too much about Fleetwood. However, I'm pretty sure they're in the same league as Doncaster, so Ben, I'll come to you first. Is there any chance here for Fleetwood, or?
Well, Doncaster are actually above Fleetwood, so I'd have to probably say no, going on that basis. I can only see this game going one way. I think Leicester will probably go for this tournament. I think they're at a point now where maybe the season is already over in the Premier League. They're not going to try into the top 6. I think under Puel, they can safely say that they're probably going to avoid relegation. 10 points clear now. So I think they'll probably go with this. I think they'll probably field a strong side. So I fancy Leicester to be quite comfortable here. So my bet for this one's Leicester City to 0 at 8-5. I think they'll have too much for Fleetwood, and I can't really see Fleetwood having too many opportunities to get back at them.
Tom, Fleetwood in the last couple of rounds have struggled against non-league teams, actually. So it doesn't suggest that they're going to pose too much of a threat for Leicester, but do you think that home advantage may play any part in this game?
It could do, especially with the weather. I was at Fleetwood on New Year's Day watching Bradford City, my team, and Fleetwood were really poor in that game, but the weather conditions were terrible. It was really cold, really windy on that coast as well. So that could be something to, cling on to if you are a Fleetwood backer in this. But I can't see them getting anything here. I think Leicester are a decent price as well. Fleetwood, just points on them. They look very lightweight going forward. I mean, the defence isn't too good as well. Uwe Rosler doesn't play attacking football. So yeah, it's going to be a tough one for them. And Leicester have strength in depth there. And obviously it's Jamie Vardy going back to his old club, so he could be a bit of a mug bet at even money.
Yep, I was going to point that out. Vardy to come on and score against his old club at evens. 11 of Fleetwood's 21 league games have seen over 2.5 goals, however, and potentially could be goals in this one. However, pretty much going to agree with the lads. I think Leicester will probably be too strong for Fleetwood, and Fleetwood don't, certainly on paper, look like they can pose too much problems. Leicester scored 2+ goals at 4-6. Not great value. But Leicester to win both halves was something that I looked at with Marathon Bet. That's at 13-4. So if you put it in a comfortable afternoon for Leicester, winning both halves at 13-4, or if you think it might be a little bit difficult for Leicester to start with, draw half-time, Leicester full-time, 39-10 with Marathon Bet. And that certainly looks like something that you could go for. That is the Saturday kickoff at lunchtime. We'll move on to the Sunday game. Forest against Arsenal. Forest at 5-1, the draw at 3s, and Arsenal at 3-5 to win away from home. Ben, do you see any hope here for Nottingham Forest, or is it just going to be another Wenger FA Cup run?
Yeah, I can see Arsenal getting through here, and I think Arsenal will do well in this competition. I can't see Forest really posing much of a threat. Not scored in 3. Losing a Sombalonga to Middlesbrough was definitely a big blow for them. Their main goal scorer last year. And I've enjoyed Arsenal recently in recent games. They've found a well, like you say, newfound passing game. It's kind of the Arsenal of the old that we used to know, and they're very comfortable in possession. But a testing game against Chelsea on Wednesday, so I think there'll be a few rotations. I can see Arsenal winning it. I can't see them running away with it. I think Welbeck probably be a key player against Chelsea. There was a lot of balls into the box that didn't really find their target, and I think probably a weak Forest defence. I think Welbeck might hit the target in this one. Him to score and Arsenal to wins at 5-4. But the one I like is Arsenal to 0 at 15-8. Like I say, Forest not scored in 3, and I can't really see him posing much of a threat.
And for you, Tom, obviously it's difficult when it comes to FA games and previewing before teams are announced. Never really know whether Arsenal will go strong or whether they will, as Ben said, rotate. But do you see Arsenal winning it regardless?
Yeah, I do. I mean, a lot is said about Wenger rotating in these competitions, but if you look at their record, they've got to a lot of finals and semi-finals in the League Cup and in the FA Cup, indeed. So yeah, Forest aren't a team that I like at all this season. They've really struggled, especially at the back. Michael Mancian, the centre half, is a player that had a bright future. I think he was at the youth setup in England, but he's been really poor this season, and he can be got at, as you say. Arsenal have players with pace in Welbeck and Walcott who can come in here. So I like Arsenal here. 3-5. It's not the worst price in the world, but Arsenal odds on away from home. That's rule number 1 in my betting Bible, to oppose that. So I'm not going to be looking at them at the 3-5. I'd actually go against Ben. I think Forest can probably sneak something against this depleted Arsenal defence. So Arsenal to win and both teams to score 2-1. So that'll probably be the way that I go.
Yep. Arsenal managed just one first half goal in their last 7 on the road, and away from home they have struggled this season. But as you said, Forest sitting in 14th in the Championship, winless in the last 5 games and just 2 wins in their last 10. Forest, however, have trailed at the break in just 4 of their last 18 home games, which would back up my bet for this one, which would be a 0-0 half-time score, which is 5-2 with Bet365, or Arsenal winning the game 2-0 at 2-1 with Bet365. Obviously, Arsenal against Championship teams in the FA Cup since the 11-12 season, they've won by just a single goal in 5 of the 6 that they have played against Championship sides there. So, whilst Forest are only a league below, probably going to find this a little bit too difficult, but I'd probably agree that Arsenal won't run away with it. So 0-0 half-time score, 5-2, or Arsenal to win 2-0 at 2-1. Okay, so we move on to the last game of the FA Cup weekend. Brighton against Palace on Monday evening, which is a game that people will be interested in purely because this will be the game where VAR is used for the first time. Ben, 2 Premier League teams in the FA Cup on Monday evening, you're probably looking at rotation. However, it would probably be a difficult game to call anyway.
Yeah, definitely. I think normally if it was in the league and both playing strong sides, I'd probably have to go for Palace. Like I said earlier, I've been very impressed with them, both defensively and going forward. But yeah, 2 teams. I don't think Palace can really look away from the relegation zone yet. Neither can Brighton. Both teams struggling down there, so I think their priorities probably lie elsewhere. So yeah, I think we can definitely expect a lot of changes. So I did actually look back at these 2 sides as cup fixtures earlier in the season, and I've looked back at the sides that were fielded, and they don't look like strong sides at all. So I expect goals in this one. I've gone Palace purely because of the away side, and you get a better price at 11-2 with both teams to score as well. And get this, I've actually gone March to score and Brighton to win at 6-1.
I've not scored in a while, but Tom, Brighton at 13-8, Paris 19-10. Bookies clearly got this as quite a tight game, but simply money on either side to win the game is probably a way to go. Kind of 50-50, choose one.
Yeah, well, it depends on your outlook, really. You can say that, but then the biggest price of the three is the 9-4 on the draw. So
yeah,
they don't really. The bookies don't have a clue here,
no.
and I'm not too clued up either on this one. I think with all the changes, there could be value in the both teams to score. And as Ben said, I think if you're going to go somewhere, then it'd be Palace with both teams to score. But it's hard to look away from the draw at 9-4 to me. They're very evenly matched, these teams. Palace much stronger now, obviously, and the draw biggest price to the three. That's the only reason I'd go for that.
Yep, I'd agree. I've looked at the draw in this one. Brighton have drawn 6 of the last 8 games at home, and Palace have drawn 5 of their last 8. So definitely, there's a lot of draws going on between these two sides. 4 of Brighton's 6 draws have been score draws, so both teams to score at evens, especially in a game where lots of rotation. Could be one of those games where everything sort of defences just go to pot and there are plenty of goals. But yeah, the draw, I think 117-50 best price with Marathon Bet. But like Tom said, 23-10 or 9-4 around that kind of area for the draw is probably a way to go. So those are the TV games that we were going to preview this week. We will now look at potentially some of the FA Cup markets in terms of teams to win it. Ben, I know you mentioned Arsenal, and they're obviously a team that very much likes the FA Cup. And considering City, Chelsea, United, Spurs, and Liverpool are all in the Champions League, are Arsenal your sort of preferred way to go here?
I'd still probably have to go City. I thought when they rested players against Leicester in the League Cup, they still look like the dominant force, and the players that came in still produced. I think they've definitely got strength in depth. The FA Cup, they'll probably play a stronger side. I think City have got a tough test against Burnley though, especially with their with their fixture list coming up. It's quite packed. So I think against Burnley, whether they rotate against Burnley, I think they might struggle to get through that. But should they get through that, City have got to be my favourites. But yeah, second, I'll probably go Arsenal. They like the cup. Like I say, they're not in the Champions League. They're out of the title race, so they'll probably want to win this. So it's one of them two for me. Yeah.
And for you, Tom, do you think the Champions League will affect which teams go for this and which don't?
Well, I do for every team apart from City, really, because they can, carry on as they are in the Premier League, and they can really focus on the Champions League and the FA Cup, of course. But I'm looking at a few bigger prices here, given that Champions League caveat. Teams like Watford around the 40-1 mark, I think they are. They could be interesting. I do like how they're playing under Marco Silva. Obviously, the results haven't been too great in the last few weeks, but they've got a decent squad there, and I think there could be a bit of each way value at around 40-1, I think it is.
Yep, Watford actually best priced at 50s with Sky Bet. Arsenal best priced at 10-1 with Bet365. And City are about 4-1. So City definitely down as the favourites. Ben, looking down there, do you see any teams in terms of, like Tom said, any sort of each way kind of value? Any teams in there that you like the look of for this?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, I think Leicester have not really got anything to play for in the league. So I think they probably won't be one to watch. I've been really impressed with them under Puel, attacking and defensive. So I think definitely going forward, they're a match for most teams in the Premier League. So they'll probably stand good stead in this competition. Yeah.
Yeah, best priced at 28-1 with Marathon Bet. So yeah, could be a way to go. We'll move on then to looking at some of the underdogs that we fancy this weekend in the FA Cup. We've all picked out one team that we think could cause an upset at slightly bigger prices. So Tom, we'll start with you. What team do you like the look of in terms of causing an upset this weekend?
I'm actually looking at League Two leaders Luton Town. They're away at Newcastle. There's 7,000 Luton fans making that big trip up there. So they're going to be backed by a boisterous crowd. And they're 13-2, which, usually you'd see a League Two team against a Premier League team. You'd be expecting, double-figure prices, more like 10-1. But I think this is probably more than a fair price on Luton at the minute. Newcastle, Benitez... He's in a relegation battle down there for sure, so he's going to rotate. And Luton at the minute, they're playing with such a swagger going forward. Danny Hilton in frightening form. They're scoring goals. They've put 7 past 3 teams this season already. They're way too good for League Two. So just the fact that they're a League Two club, I'd just ruled it out completely. I think they're more than capable of at least getting a goal here. 3-5 is the price for them just to score a goal in this game. So I really fancy them to do some damage at Newcastle. At least take it back to Kenilworth Road. You could back them on the +1 handicap as well at a decent price. So yeah, they'd be my underdog of the weekend.
And for you, Ben, I think the sort of what needs to happen in an upset is you kind of got a team that are in a higher league that are performing poorly down towards the bottom against the team kind of higher up in a league below. Who have you gone for?
Yeah, exactly that. I think, I can't believe Derby are such high priced against what you could say out of form United squad. United side, I think the United are doing all right. I still think they've got that cutting edge yet. Definitely struggled against Bristol. Derby high on confidence, second in the league. At 12-1, I think they're a very good price.
Yep, well, I think the problem would be there is just purely the fact that it's Old Trafford. Had it been at Derby, you probably would have been a little bit more popular. But yeah, Derby against United at Old Trafford.
Yeah, I just think I look back at the United v Southampton game where Southampton really cancelled out United's attack. They tried to hit direct, and if that didn't work, then Southampton just sat deep and packed their own box. And I think Derby will do the same. And I'm not sure United have got that plan B. So I think if Derby could nick a goal, it really makes this game interesting. There's a few others I've looked at. I think focusing on the teams around the relegation zone, like we mentioned with Palace and Brighton, teams like that aren't going to want to play their stronger side. So you've got to look at teams like Exeter, Wigan, Wolves. I think Wolves at 4-5. I think
Wolves are actually favourites against Swansea. Yeah. Swansea are underdogs in that one.
Yeah, but league below, can we call Wolves favourites? And now they are with the book, obviously, yeah. But I think for a Championship side to beat a Premiership side, yeah, I'd probably look at Wolves. I've actually got another pick as well, and I think Doncaster just over evens against Rochdale. I went to watch Doncaster against Rochdale on Boxing Day, and they absolutely hammered them. So I don't normally bet on my own side, but I think I might put some money on Donny.
I absolutely agree with that, actually, because I've seen Rochdale play a few times this season. We beat them 4-3, Bradford, and I actually had a decent bet on Doncaster to beat them in the league on that. I think it was on a Friday night. They were about the even money mark then, a bit shorter. And yeah, that looks like a phenomenal price. Rochdale are terrible away from home.
Oh yeah, so other teams down in there, I think Bristol City, obviously played so well against United and have had such a good season. But I personally have gone with Mansfield Town of League Two. They are playing Cardiff City away from home now. Cardiff's kind of poor run in cup season so far. They were out third round last season and the season before. Fourth and fifth round 2 seasons before, and then third round. They've been knocked out by lower league teams. 5 of the last 7 they've gone out in the third round. As for Mansfield, last 10 games, a bit of form, won 6 of those 10, losing just once, 3 draws, and just seeing them against a Cardiff team who will probably do a lot of swapping and changing in that side. They will be difficult to hold on, and I think Mansfield Town away from home, probably backed by quite a lot of fans, have got a good chance against Cardiff, and they are priced at 53-10 with marathon bet. So just over 5-1 for a League Two team to beat a Championship team, and with probably a very sparse crowd. I do fancy Mansfield there. So those are the three underdogs we've gone for. So Mansfield against Cardiff, Derby against United, and Tom, who did you go for again?
Luton at Newcastle.
Luton away at Newcastle. So we will now go on to our final part of the podcast, looking at our best bets for this weekend. Ben, I'll start with you. What have you got?
I mentioned it earlier. Arsenal to beat Forest to 0 at 15-8. Forest not scored in 3, like I said. And we've talked about the Arsenal defence. Koscielny didn't feature against Chelsea the other night. Whether he'll be rested for this game and play against Chelsea next week, or whether he'll come in, I think they've got quite a bit of rotation in that centre half position. Coquelin and El Neni will probably feature. So I think defensively they are probably set up for this Forest side. So yeah, Arsenal to 0 at 15-8.
And for you, Tom, which bet did you go with?
Well, I'm going back to the Fleetwood Leicester game. Just after seeing Fleetwood, I don't think they're much cop. And Leicester, they rested Vardy the other day, so I can see him coming back in. But Leicester around the 4-7 mark. It's a bit too short to put up as an app, so I'll go for Leicester to win and throw in over 1.5 goals. So it's Leicester to win every scoreline apart from 1-0. That's just under even money. It's 17-20 with Coral.
Okay, and my bet of the weekend is Liverpool-Everton game being a draw at 19-5. Like I said, plenty of draws in the last few Merseyside derbies, including the 1-1 early this season. Liverpool potentially having a little bit of rotation in there, and Everton being set up to try and hold on. I just fancy the draw, and that's at 19-5 with William Hill. Okay, that brings an end to this week's podcast. Enjoy FA Cup, like we said. Have a flutter on some of those underdogs that we've picked out, and also obviously our bets of the week will be tweeted when we tweet when we tweet the podcast in the next probably tomorrow. But otherwise, that's all from me. That's all from Tom.
Thank you.
And that's all from Ben.
See you later, guys.
Thank you, guys, and we will see you next week.